Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much, Chairperson.
What you need to take, can there be order there? Honorable said it looks like you are causing chaos on the table. No, it's chaos on behalf of Honorable Madisha. It's chaos on his behalf. What we need from you, sir, is just to inform us thoroughly as to who you are, summary of your work experience, and whatever issue you can tell us in relation to the disclosure. Surely you have gone through, before coming here, you have gone through the Act. You know that there are things you must disclose. So over to you, and that will be done in 3 minutes.
Indeed, thank you very much, Chairperson. I'd also like to extend my words of appreciation to the esteemed members of the committee. I am Desmond Golding. I, in fact, draw my expertise in finance, investment, economics, as well as law. And I've worked for various financial institutions. So I've got a very strong understanding of finance, investment, and commerce, be it in the public sector as well as in the private sector. As you would notice in my resume, that I've worked at a very senior level, both in government as well as in the private sector. The other aspect, of course, as well, is that I've got a very strong background and understanding of corporate governance. The bulk of the boards that I've served in the past, I would chair the Audit Committee or the Audit and Finance Committee, which makes my understanding of your Companies Act, your Public Finance Management Act, and any other gamut of corporate governance, quite strong. Then the other strength that I draw, Honorable Chairperson and respected members, is the issue around business turnaround. I've worked in different organizations where I've got in where institutions were in distress and be able to assist them to chart a strategic goal to say what is it that needs to be done in the next 5 to 10 years. And I should be able to say also, Chair, that I was in fact in the board of the SABC before. I chaired the audit committee and participated in other finance-related organizations. And one was at the SABC. I'm actually very grateful to say that the internal audit was in shambles at that particular time. And I came in at that particular time and strengthened internal controls, as well as also ensuring that there was an appointment of a permanent head of audit committee at that particular time. I must also indicate, Chair, as well, that quite interesting enough that when it comes to SABC, it's in one area of interest where I do have a strong understanding, in fact, of broadcasting and the media as such. When it comes to anything to declare, Chair, I do not have anything that I would like to declare which will make me unfit to be a director in terms of any act in this country. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Honorable members, there is the candidate, Honorable Sedi. It's your turn.
Mr. Golding, I see you, as you have indicated, you were chairing the audit committee of the SABC at some stage. When was it?
It was during the tenure of the board when I think it was between 2011 and 2013. Yeah. The chairman was Dr. Ben Gubane. Yes.
The SABC is required to broadcast events of national importance. To what extent are they moving in terms of this particular requirement?
According to my understanding, events of national importance indeed needs to be broadcasted, and there needs to be, in fact, an outreach to all and everyone in South Africa. I do not know to date what is the extent of SABC in terms of that particular mandate. But I do know that while I was still with the SABC, there was always a big debate around this particular point, because on the one hand, those events must be broadcasted. On the other hand, SABC had always said that, but government must come to party as well, because it costs a lot of financials. So there's always been this particular tension between government and the broadcaster around events of national importance. But for me, I think the SABC should be able, in fact, to broadcast them.
The executive directors of the board, there are some suggestions people are starting to throw in to say maybe we need to review the role of these executive directors and their powers. What is your view on that particular matter?
Well, you see, Honorable Tseli, being an executive director, it means you get registered as a director of a company in terms of the Companies Act. So any power enjoyed by any directors in terms of the Companies Act would apply to you as well. That is the law. But also, there is always the law and practice. I think each and every institution would organize itself in a different way. Say, for an example, executive directors would be the ones that would originate certain ideas or projects. And when they come to board, they will be the one, of course, that pushes for them. I think there needs to be a check and balance mechanism that is there. Do I support that their powers must be curtailed? Indeed, I do support that, because you can't double dip.
So that board, the one that you were chairing its audit committee, that one was not dissolved, no?
No, the board was not dissolved. In fact, the board disintegrated because of some of us who were vehemently against what the chairperson was doing, because he was brazenly bullying the organization towards a cliff. And we had to stand very firm at that particular point in time. And the chairperson and many others then resigned, and the SABC board couldn't correct.
So with that experience, what is it that we can do differently? Because surely we can't afford another dissolution this time around. I was saying even to some of the people who came here that that's a very painful experience, even to us as parliament, to dissolve a board. What is it that we can do differently to avoid it?
Yeah, I would actually also, humbly plead with the committee and parliament to say the dissolution of the board must be the last option, because it is these dissolutions of boards where these corrupt elements begin to creep in, because there's a vacuum, there's a power vacuum. I have seen when I was monitoring SABC board and the dissolutions of the board, because sometimes people who instigate dissolutions of the board are these executives. So I would say that I would plead quite earnestly and humbly that it must be the last of the options.
The last one. Let's assist each other to sell the SABC to South Africans.
Yes.
That the SABC, in my view, is not a lost case. There are some other positive things that are happening. Let's try and raise the morale of South Africans about the SABC.
Well, SABC, the fact that it's still able to broadcast, it means it's good that it's there. There are good journalists that are in the SABC, there is no doubt. There are good, experienced people that are in the SABC. But also, SABC is not a South African asset for me. I travel throughout the African continent. I see SABC being broadcasted. So I am saying that there is still good in the SABC, but we need to be able to strengthen it so that it can be able to frame the African story in a right way because of its influence and reach.
Thanks, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Van Dam.
Thanks, Chair. Mr. Golding, thanks for making yourself available. As you correctly say, you were on the SABC board, and you were on that board from 2009 until 2013, am I correct?
Indeed, ma'am.
You were quoted at the time saying, you attend meetings and you say this must be done, but nothing ends up being done. It's very frustrating. So this was your attitude about being on the SABC board at the time that you tried to get things done, but things didn't happen. Now you're here back again. We'll put you, if we do put you back on the SABC board, how are you going to do things differently, or will you have the same attitude?
I think, thank you very much, Honorable Van Dam. For me, it was not an attitude. It was a cry for help. Cry for help because that particular statement, I had made it to the portfolio committee, you know? And one of the things that made me even to raise my hand this time around is because of the resolve that I saw the committee dealing with SABC issues. For me, it means that I will actually be accountable to a committee that will actually be able to put its foot on the ground.
Okay, I'm glad that you did raise that on a public platform and you tried. But let's talk about now what your role was. So you were in charge of the audit committee, so that was something that was under your control. You had oversight over that. Now, in your 4 years at the SABC board, what was the state of the SABC's audits and its finances?
Honorable Van Dam, when we came to the SABC board, when we came to the SABC board, the organization was in deep financial crisis. You would recall there was also a bailout that was arranged through Nedbank at that particular time, which was a guarantee from the National Treasury, and the money was raised with Nedbank. So the organization was in dire financial situation like it is now. So what happened was that also issues of governance. So when I was a chair of the audit committee, and I think the record will show, is that even members of the internal audit had even the ability and the guts to say, at least we've got a chair who can be able to listen and take the issues to the board.
Thanks, Mr. Golden. Sorry, I just have 5 minutes.
Yes,
and I think
madam.
I've got the gist of what you said.
ma'am.
When you came in 2009, the SABC was in financial shambles.
Yes.
Now let's look at the record. So at the end of 2012-13, you've been at the SABC for a number of years now. The SABC recorded 1.5 billion undocumented expenditure, 100 million irregular expenditure, and 913 million unsubstantiated revenue for TV license fees. Would you say that a couple of years into your term as the chair of audit, that's a good result?
Well, I think, Honorable Van Dam, we must actually understand that in accounting terms, when there is, in fact, an irregular expenditure, sometimes there is a carry-through, because you'd find that those were contracts that continues because they were entered in a particular point in time. But you will see that, I don't doubt that immediately after that, because it became like a bell curve, after that, all those irregularities then begin to level off. So I should say that we did lay a good foundation, or of course there is a carry-through up until things level
Would
out.
you say then, as the head of audit, you prevented corrupt transactions from happening?
Indeed, I think when I was a head of audit, when things were brought to my attention, I would act decisively on them.
Okay, then, so how is it possible then that at that time, there was irregular expenditure of 3 million on that ICT in Daba with Minister Pule? There was 106 million spent on the Durban July for 200 people for SABC staff. There was a time that the Guptas actually got entry into the SABC when that TNA deal was signed, was around that time. This is just a couple of examples of the litany of corrupt practices that were happening at the SABC, and you were the head of the audit committee. So based on that record, because this is how we must make our decisions. We must look at your past record and see whether or not you are someone who's suitable to serve on the SABC board. Given the record that we have in front of us, I don't see why we must put you back on the SABC board. You were in charge of audits. The audit outcomes, they may have improved, but they weren't great. And there was a lot of corruption happening at the time. How are you going to do things differently if we put you back there?
Honorable Van Dam, with due respect, I submit differently that the issue of, I left the board in February, March 2013. What is the timing of those particular events? Was it the financial year ending 13-14 when those particular issues were happening? Was I still in the SABC board? I think this is something that we may actually have to revisit.
October 2012.
Okay. So, I mean, I was saying that particular point. The other point as well is that...
The time is up. The time is up, but you can proceed.
Yeah, the other point that I'm trying to make is that in many instances, you are a non-executive director. The issues only come out when there is audit, because audit is ex post facto. And unless sometimes members of the public bring it to their attention, you do not want to be caught up in the operations, because many a times they get done at operational level. But where they would arise without a fear and without lying, Ms. Van Dam, I always acted without fear.
Honorable Davis.
Thanks, Chair. Thank you to Mr. Golding for being here. I just want to come in on what my colleague was saying about your tenure at the SABC board. You must have a sense of déjà vu, because when you were on the board, the SABC was requiring a 2 billion rand bailout, just as it is now. And it's a case of the more things change, the more they stay the same. The problem is that you were on the board at the time, and you didn't seem to be able to have any power to effect change. And I'm going to quote what you said in the newspaper at the time. You said, "You attend meetings and you say this must be done, but nothing ends up getting done. It is very frustrating." So you sound like a weak victim of the SABC, instead of the kind of person that we need, who's going to go into the SABC and turn things around. You just say it was very frustrating, I couldn't effect any change, and you just threw your hands up into the air. How do you respond to that?
Honorable Davis, I read that statement completely different from what you're saying. My reading of the statement is a statement that says, here is a bold board member who, under normal circumstances, board always close rank, who raises an issue in public to the committee to say there is a problem, and...
Sorry to disrupt you. I think you'd already left the board by then. So it was very much after the fact.
Yeah, so what I'm saying is that when you speak a statement of that particular sort, for me, it's a bold statement that says that something has to be done, particularly from all relevant accounting committees. For an example, if you say things are being raised and nothing happens, you are being bold to say whoever that is relevant must be able to do something. And as I indicated earlier on, to say the fact that the board, this particular committee, dealt with issues of SABC very decisive. For me, it gives me confidence to say it can actually be the committee that I can work with. Thank you, sir.
My next question, when you were the head of department at the KZN Department of Economic Development, 28 million rand was spent on a jazz festival that never took place under your watch. Can you tell us what happened here?
For me, what happened there was that there was a committee of major events which was reporting to cabinet. So everybody would come in with their major event projects, and cabinet will then allocate it to a different committee. This is an event that was under the department. Like in all other events, when the contract has been entered into, then a forward payment is made within the parameters of the PFMA, because people who sat in the committee was the MEC Finance, MEC Economic Development, MEC for Arts and Sports, as well as MEC for Sports and Corporate Governance. So then they decide through cabinet what projects must be done. When there were problems around this, because partners were fighting, we then recommended...
Right, but you were the accounting officer,
yes,
am I correct?
Yes, we recommended myself and the head of Treasury to say, let's cancel the project and demand the money back. So it was a cabinet decision to cancel the project and demand the money back because they were fighting. Even to this day, there is litigation to recover that particular money. So from my side, I did everything that was necessary, in fact, to be able to regain the money, because
so again,
the decision
you
was
did
not
your
mine.
best. You did your best.
Indeed.
Okay.
The decision was not mine.
Is it true that you are a shareholder, or were a shareholder, in a company called Westside Trading that received an unauthorized 82 million rand loan from the Land Bank, and that wasn't paid back? Can you explain your involvement in that loan and what your role was?
I was a shareholder indeed at Westside Trading. We went to Land Bank because they had advertised that they are funding property development. We had a property in Hartbeespoort Beersport, then we applied through regular processes, we received the money. Whilst we were implementing the project, there was a new board, and there was a decision that was taken by the Land Bank to say all those property development must stop. And Land Bank came to us and said, you know, the previous people that were here 3 years ago, they did not have the authority. We said to them, but if you say we must stop the project, it means you are saying the project must collapse. So at this particular stage, I should say that there is, in fact, it is a matter before a court between ourselves and the land bank. So
Okay.
in this particular regard.
My last
yeah.
question. In your CV, you say that you sit on the ANC's Economic Transformation Committee. You sit on an ANC NEC subcommittee, and you're a member of the ANC Youth League. What do you say to those who argue that this kind of cadre deployment by the ANC to the SABC is precisely what has damaged the public perception of the SABC, and that by accepting this nomination, you yourself would be cementing that perception that the SABC is a mouthpiece of the governing party?
I think, with due respect, Mr. Davis, my CV that I submitted for the application does not have that. I don't know where would you have got that, because I've got my CV here that I submitted here. It's in front of me. It does not have any of that, you know. Do I say that, in the past, all of us come from a history of apartheid, where there was a lot of activism that was there, and in one or the other way involved in politics, some of us decided to be professionals, as I'm a professional today, and I don't get involved in any politics. Yeah, at a particular point in time, indeed, I was an activist. I sat in various committees, but that has since stopped long time ago. I'm a professional now because all of us did come through a particular level of activism, yeah. But my CV that I submitted does not have that. Yeah.
Well, I have a CV in front of me.
I've got a copy of my CV that I submitted.
Well, so do I, Chair.
Thank you, sir.
Chair, the CV that was submitted quite clearly...
Is that the CV that was circulated to members? Yes. It has that? It has what? Okay.
Doesn't have page number.
Number 4.
Can you, the CV reflects that, Mr. Golden?
Indeed, Chair, as I indicated that all of us were activists, yeah? And I was involved in many structures of the ANC and the Youth League at a particular point in time. I'm a professional now. Like all of us were activists. I'm a professional now.
Sorry,
And
does the CV that you have reflects what is raised? Because you were saying the CV that you have doesn't have that.
All right, I think this one talks to about my previous roles, not current roles, and I do say, Chair, that let me respectfully say to the member where it says selective roles, I can see where it talks about economic transformation, ANC Youth League at a particular point in time, and let me humbly apologize to Mr. Davis. I do sit in my CV on selected roles.
That's right.
Yes, thank you, sir.
That's the right thing to do. Thank you very much. Honorable Davis, continue.
Chair, I think I'm covered. I'd like to know why we're getting different versions of CVs. It's the second time that this has happened.
No, he has apologized. Sorry.
So,
Different versions, yeah.
We're with you, David. A different version.
oh, okay, he has a different version.
No, he has the same version.
That's fine. Thank you, Chair. I'm covered.
Yeah, he had distracted this thing of all of us speaking. There you are. Honorable Dozie, it's now your turn.
Thank you, Chairperson. Mr. Golding,
Sir.
I tried to call Tito Mboweni, but I couldn't find him as a reference here under your references. He's an NEC member of the ANC, no? Correct?
Well, currently he is.
Oh, so you are saying I must call him to speak about this application of yours?
My reference there is because I used to work in his office when he was a governor of the Reserve Bank. So I worked under him in his office when he was a governor of the Reserve Bank.
So what?
He was not holding any political office at the time.
Yeah, well, I would hope I don't have to show you be explicit, you know, give me judgment here. Mr. Mboweni is an NEC member of the ANC, and then he's here. So it's an opportunity for you to clarify yourself. He's not just the governor. You are an ANC member. You've been in many ANC committees, including the Youth League, including NEC-related committees. It's not a wrong thing. What does it mean? You must show us judgment. We give you an opportunity to show us judgment under those conditions. So you have put him here as a reference. You could have just said, I worked for him and ended there. It would have been perfect for me to openly say, oh, the man has worked for the Director General. You didn't put other people who are honorable, who are great that you worked with in your life, but you chose Mr. Mboweni. So what must that say to me?
Well, Honorable Ndlozi, I think even in my listing of Mr. Mboweni, it says former governor. So I'm writing it as a reference because of my professional relationship that I had with him. If I had written something different, I would have indicated. So Mr. Mboweni, I worked with him for many years. So if there's any reference, I would have...
Okay, so the problem here that we have is every time people mention these important NC leaders, which is not a problem, they are unable to come out clearly and appreciate the ethical dilemma it presents to the public. It's my duty to probe that, and you are failing to do that. Now, you see, you have a strong history with the ANC. You put a leader of the ANC in your CV as a person that we must call to talk to us. I'm not interested in your governor. I'm interested in him talking about you in relation to this board membership. Again, I give you an opportunity. What is your reaction to that?
No, but Mr. Ndlozi, I don't think me and you are talking past each other.
We are.
Mr. Mboweni will be able to attest to my professionalism, to my work ethic, to my hard-working habits, to my sound judgment.
My view of Mr. Mboweni is that he often, both in relation to his views, his contribution, for an example, in the liberation negotiations, was part of a very strong group of people that believed in privatization and giving the markets freedom and all those things. I'm going somewhere with this line of questions, but you're not giving it to me, so let me go directly. The board you were part of, number one, was fractured by ANC factional battles as well, the Ngubeni board. You are giving Mr. Mboweni, who is an NEC member, you've got a long history in the ANC. There is a big problem even in the previous board that was just dissolved recently, that it was fractured yet again by a lot of factional battles between the minister and some of the comrades of the ANC in the NEC. What is your reaction to that?
Well, I think my reaction, Honorable Ndlozi, is a very simple answer. My answer to that is factional battles that are at party level. I do not think at any given point in time they must be able to impact on the SABC as an organization. And my history will demonstrate that at no given point in time, I said to the board or I got any instruction from anybody or accounted to anybody about what is happening at SABC. Because remember, Honorable Ndlozi, that as young professionals, we carry credibility. As young professionals, in anything that we do, we can't be held personally liable in terms of Section 86 of the Companies Act.
Okay, thank you. So was the multi-choice deal of the SABC administered when you were in a board?
What date was it, Mr.
Are you aware of a multi-choice deal that it's a big controversy that got Mr. Hlaudi Motsoeneng in a big trouble? Were you on the board when it was introduced?
No, I was not in the board. Where they sold the archives of SABC to MultiChoice, I was not in the board.
Okay. Now, with this West Dean trading thing, the information I have says, Mr. Golding, you agreed to settle the company's indebtedness to Land Bank, a payment of 82 million rands. And then also that you tried to challenge it in court, it was dismissed with cost. And you didn't include this in your CV, or at least this company. A very important, and controversial thing about your decision-making processes Western Trading was liquidated. Am I correct?
Well, can I answer the question in comprehensive?
Yeah.
Yeah. You see,
So,
Can I just inform you that the time is up?
thank you, Chairperson.
You can respond.
Can I just formulate the last question so that it's direct? So that's the information I have. So please confirm firstly if it was liquidated, if your case was dismissed with cost, even if it means you challenged it later. And if that's the case, what does it mean about your judgment as a finance guru and as a person who wants to be in the SABC board, which is facing financial problems?
I should be able to say, Honorable Dlozi, that last week, the matter between Land Bank and Westside Trading was before court, so we are waiting for the judgment. So there hasn't been any dismissal on the matter, number one. If you go to the records of the court, the matter was heard in the Pretoria High Court last week. So we are waiting the judgment on that regard. Number two, Mr. Dlozi, for an example, if yourself, you start a business and a bank gives you money, halfway through, as you execute your business, then they withdraw the money, illegally so. It is bound to collapse. It's exactly what happened with the Land Bank, because what they did was actually very irregular to pull money halfway through, whatever internal problem that they had. So this is the case here. What does it say about my judgment? I think my judgment continues to be very sound. It was a sound business initiative when we entered into, and the Land Bank did us a big disservice, sir.
Thank you very much. Honorable Madisha?
Thank you, sir. The Constitution of South Africa, Chapter 10, Section 195A, emphasizes the issue of ethics and integrity. And kindly prove to me that you are covered, because there is this report by Amabungani Center for Investigative Journalism, which links you to Ru Shabangu, the businessman at the center of the 1.7 billion police headquarters leasing scandal. Okay. Now, secondly, a report on News 24 of 29 August, which links you to action by the Land Bank, in which the Land Bank has summoned you and other directors of a company demanding the repayment of the multi-million rand loan in respect of the development in the Northwest. Kindly comment.
Thank you very much, Honorable Madisha. Honorable Madisha, I think it's the same question that Honorable Dlozi was asking. It's a project that we initiated in good faith. We identified the property, and at that particular point in time, I would imagine even Mr. Ru Shabangu was not even a known business person. So we came together as entrepreneurs at the time. The property was identified by a gentleman, Anton Duplessis. We came together as entrepreneurs. We applied for the loan at the Land Bank like many of us. It was granted to us. So, as I was indicating...
Thank you. I would say let's save the few minutes. Thank you very much. Let me go on. Well, I'm not satisfied. We'll talk about that. Just 5 little questions you can note. You were on the board. Number 1, you resigned, yes. Kindly tell me why. Was it of your own accord? What, in your view, went wrong at the board, because we haven't said it, and what was the genesis of the problem? When matters started going wrong under the watch of the then board, what did you do within the board to remedy the situation? Because I wish to say that you have not done anything. And lastly, on that point, when it became apparent that the board as a collective could not or did not want to take remedial action, what did you do to alert stakeholders of the impending implosion of SABC?
All right. Thank you, Chair. The first question, yes, in fact, I resigned from the board because, as I indicated, the manner in which the chair and other board members in which things were being done, it was very problematic because it was abrogation of corporate governance. Some of us were in the board who were what I would call the voice of reason, would question many of these things because also the chair was becoming too operational in the organization. What was the genesis of the issue that resulted one to actually to resign? In brief, Chair, is that what happened was there was a gentleman by the name of Mr. Hlawude, who was the head of regions, who was brought in by the chair to be the acting COO, and we said, but that cannot happen under our watch. Any board who's acting COO must be sanctioned by the board. And we took him to task, and he rescinded the decision. After he rescinded the decision, a few days down the line, he said he has reinstated Mr. Hlawude together with the deputy chair. We convened a board meeting. We rescinded that particular decision. We appointed Mr. Mike Silumo as acting COO. And after that, we issued a media statement to say that nobody has a right to change a board decision. It's not a personal fiefdom here. This is a public institution. That is what we did. And after that, there was so much pressure that came from the then minister, even to board members, to say, no, Hlawude must go back, and it was just becoming unattainable. But we did stand our ground, I could say. So ultimately, after that...
So in other words, you can conclude by saying the then minister was wrong.
I mean, without any doubt, you do not put pressure on board members, and I would never listen to you, me. With due respect.
Thank you very much. Okay.
Thank you, Honorable Matisha. Honorable Tolashe.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
To start with, Mr. Golden, there's nothing wrong in South Africa today to be at your age, at some point being an activist of a whatever organization, because the situation dictated at the time. So there's nothing wrong with that. You got into the board during very difficult times. You went through, you were part of those difficult times. Now, if you can please present yourself to this panel in a manner that suggests that even if you can be appointed today, I'm just making an example, and the same thing happened, either being influenced by the factional problems of the ruling party or by the arrogant chairpersons, how do you see yourself to be a board member that will be able to carry the image of the SABC through? I still want you to present yourself in that fashion. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Chair. To Honorable Tolashe, I would say that I am a person of resolve. I am a professional, and I'm a very value-based individual. In all the organizations that I've served in, I've always been a very firm person, but also very fair. Within SABC, in the previous board, that is exactly what I did. When there were problems, we would raise them very sharply. Documentation is there. Because for me, when I come to an organization like the SABC, my strength is in finance investment, but also business turnaround. I know there's a lot of preoccupation around issues of governance. I equally submit that also we need to look at where do we take SABC in the next 5 to 10 years. I think that's one asset that I would want, in fact, when I come to the SABC, that I will contribute quite decisively on to say, where should SABC be in the next 5 to 10 years? And that I could actually be a very valuable asset, both in terms of my skills and expertise, but also stabilize the corporate governance aspect. So the long and the short of it is that I will stay the course. I will be in the battlefield when it needed, and also I would be, I would actually also raise the issues even with the respected committee like this one, where there are issues, but we will deal with them decisively, I can assure you.
Lastly, Chairperson, are you suggesting that the committee at the time did not do what was expected of it?
I think, with due respect, there were issues that were raised And I think the committee could have done much more. That's what I would say.
Thank you very much, Honorable Kungubele.
Thank you, Mr. Golden.
Yes.
I want to repeat what Member Tolashe said. I just decided to look around. I realized that in this entire city, if there's anyone who has never been in the ANC, it could be one person in the entire city. So, which explains that historically it is not a sin to be there. In other words, all right, you were a chair of the audit committee, am I right?
Indeed, sir.
Can you list 2 or 3 functions of the audit committee?
Well, the first role of the audit committee is to ensure that there are sound and proper internal controls in the organization. The second one is to ensure that governance mechanisms are strong. The other one is to make sure that where there are issues of a breach in corporate governance, they must actually be able to commission the investigation thereon. And also the issues of risk as well.
And there's also risk audit.
Risk as well, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I heard you say it was not easy to see things during the course of work. You would see them during the audit outcomes. Did I get you correct?
What I was saying,
The
sir,
question was being asked, what did you do to prevent those things from happening? Your response was that at a risk of interfering or whatever, you only came to realize those issues during the audit findings. I'm paraphrasing you. Am I correct?
correct?
Yes. So if that's the issue, if auditing is about its proactive element, is about auditing systems, internal controls, risks, and so on, would you justify the excuse that you've just articulated?
Well, my response was a specific response to the issues that were raised to say they would have actually come at the time when there was audit. There is no doubt. I'm a very strong proponent that audit committee must be proactive, and I have done that before, so it means that is one missing element where the proactiveness of the audit committee, I fully subscribe to it. So I would concur with you to say that even in the audit committees that I've set in, every time the proactive element is always there, but also to make sure that you work with internal audit to be able to ensure that you assist in the identification of problems. Yeah,
No,
and
but
also work with the agent.
but the question is, switch off your, is that, what would you say about your leadership of the audit committee that was not able during the intervening times in between the audit results, not being able to actually audit and report on the weakness of the systems?
I mean, Honorable Kungubel, I think it may not be correct to say that issues that have been highlighted, they were the only issues that were problems. There was a lot of internal control, internal governance at the SABC that was strengthened during the time when I was there. You know, varying from systems, varying from staff, varying from picking up issues, putting them before the committee, deciding on them, putting them before the board. So there was a lot that was done. Some of the remnants of some of the issues that in fact have came now, they were not the only issues, there were a lot of them. But my biggest contribution at the time was to stabilize internal audit, because the internal audit was in a state of dysfunctionality. For me, that was the biggest contribution, which internal audit then worked with the audit committee, and our audit committee worked very hard, and they were very credible members. And my leadership there cannot be doubted, sir.
No. It cannot, I think there's a history of energy in you. There's a history of recognizing your energy. But we must speak about what happened at SABC. Now, was there what you would refer to as M&E framework in SABC? Or was it in place during your time?
Well, I mean, during my time, the enterprise risk-wide framework was there, the SABC. Within the internal audit, all the other things that are supposed to be there, which are prescribed by the PFMA, were complied with. That's why even if you look at the audit report, the AG did not have any findings on what was supposed to be frameworks or policies within internal audit. So all what was actually required by the PFMA, and I think you could go back to the annual report, there were no adverse findings.
So if you were ignored during that period when you were a member of the board, leading a very important committee, the audit one, and you kept on raising issues, how different are you going to raise those issues now so that you're not ignored?
Just before that, your time is up. He can respond. He can respond to the question.
I raise those particular issues quite sharply with other board members who are voice of reason, but also, again, where you've got a reciprocation in committees of accountability, like this one, it always gives one strong confidence because you may be as energetic as possible, raise issues, but if there's no reciprocation, then, sometimes it becomes a problem.
Ubungekho ke Mama Choba, it's now your turn. Are you okay? Okay. Honorable Kalako. Honorable Kalako.
Thank you, Chair. Afternoon, Mr. Golding.
Good afternoon.
Look, I won't get. I've heard of you explaining your experience in the SABC, and that experience emanates from what is being pointed out here, of political interference, of party political problems taken to SABC, dividing the board. So what we want you to assure us, because we don't want this thing to happen again as ANC. And people sometimes drop names of the party, of the organization, and that is made as if it's our organization. It's not my organization. I can stand on top of the roof and say it's individuals. So give us assurance that if you are there, you will lead and do your work irregardless of whatever your political persuasions and ideas are, or any party. You will do and implement the acts and policies, including the constitution of this country, in the interests of the public. That's a assurance we want from board members. We don't want what you are in, where when you raise issues, you are told you put this person, otherwise it's coming. The tendency language is coming from a high level. Who's high level? It's coming, I'm going to Pretoria. Who's Pretoria? I'm going to Lutul House. Where? To the toilet in Lutul House. You see, there are those, we are tired of that as these members of this organization and leaders. So just give us assurance on that. Other areas we are coming out, we don't want you to take a board in there, which is going to give us those problems again, because it's going to destroy the public asset.
Thank you very much, Honorable Kalago. I herewith do give that particular assurance that as a professional, I would at all given point in time have the best interests of South Africa at heart. SABC is a national asset for the country, and it belongs to everybody in this country. And they should not, and they will not, when I am a board member, be situations where I bring party political interest in the organization. And I think we are 100% correct, Mr. Kalago, because sometimes other people said, no, somebody said we must do this. And in my experience, immediately when somebody says that, that's where my ears shut down, because I'm not anybody's puppet. I'm here to ply my trade. I'm here as a professional. I'm here to make sure that whatever contribution that I make, there is in fact an impact on. So I do give that particular assurance that at no given point in time, I'll be seen or being part of any faction. It has never happened in the past. It's not in my value or history. And I can assure this member of this particular committee that it is my solemn commitment, which will continue from what I've been doing in the past, to say the interest of the SABC will always be supreme.
I want just your opinion on that, because this is becoming a problem in society, and especially in state institutions or in state parastatals or SOEs. What makes people, I can see you are highly qualified, learned, you know. What makes people who have qualifications, got supposed to be, we thought they have integrity when they were there, they are doctors, others in other fields, just an individual which doesn't have even to prove them a trick. Others, they were even to, there was one board there with the chairperson who said he's got things from Wits and Standard Bank. They ended those things not being there. We fired her. So what makes people to actually, with all those qualifications, with all those years of experience, are some of them running businesses, turn around to be commanded just by somebody who, you know, umtunji, who has nothing, you know? What's that?
Yeah,
The member's time is up, so just take half a minute.
okay. I think, Mr. Kalago, in all honesty, I think what makes people to do that, it's arrogance and lack of humility and humbleness. As much as I'm a very assertive person, but I'm a very humble person, a very respectful person. But it also talks about your own personal background as a person as well. So those particular individuals, sometimes they get over-drunk by power, and I do not have that particular problem. My problem is that I've got a problem with non-performance. If there's no performance, then I've got a problem.
All right. We are still facing 7 candidates, members. No, I want 7 candidates. We can't go back to follow-ups. Only one thing that I want to check from you, because I have time also. During the ad hoc committee on SABC inquiry, it was alleged that the then CEO, Mr. Mlife, signed a 500,000 raise for Mr. Mtsonek. Is that correct? Because I think that was during your time. If it's correct, if it was during the time, fine, but if it was not, then we stop it there.
Chair, to the best of my recollection, I don't recall that happening during my time. So we'll be using my best recollection in this particular regard. Thank you, sir.
Any question to members?
Well, I do not have any questions, Chair. Safe to say that thank you very much for the opportunity, and I will never disappoint.
Thank you very much for your contribution. And no, we can't do that now, Ngoku. Bring the arm, and we can't do this now. I've already said go well, but fine. Is that a question or? Yes?
Mr. Golding, you didn't mention that you've actually served on the SABC board before, so this would be your 3rd time. And also that first time you resigned from the board, like with the second time, am I correct? This would be your 3rd round at the SABC.
Indeed, I served at the SABC board some time back, yes. Yeah, it's correct. I mean, the first time around in the early 200, yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. Of what significance is this?